Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in once again to the dungeon of the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Podcast, where I am your host, Alex the Shark Sparks, and not joining me, as always, is Mitch. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego Black? He's not here yet, but you know who is here? Our wonderful producer, everyone's favorite. I'm just so happy to have him as part of the squad. Give it up for Vinny the Dream Santucci. Vinny, say hello to all the Splunkers out there.
Hey, Spelunkers. It's probably the nicest thing Alex has ever said about me, so I will take that as non-sarcasm and just assume that it's completely genuine.
Yeah, I mean, last week you got a double dose of diss because we recorded the pod where I blasted you in the intro because I blast everyone in the intro, and then we recorded the Wheel of Destiny where I blasted you. But that one, in my defense, that one wasn't blasting you because of you. That was blasting you because of the division you're in. But yeah, you got double dipped there, so I figured today I could give you a nice intro.
It wouldn't be the Wheel of Destiny without a little Vinny slander. So it's like I just come to expect what the intelligent diss is going to be at this point in time.
Yeah, well, yeah. Moving forward, it's probably going to have to be.
Last year's was iconic. Last year's was iconic. It was like a 25-year callback to homemade videos that we used to make. So I mean, now it's just like you've got to top that somehow.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I decided to do that live Wheel of Destiny with you guys, because I was thinking how do I even top last year? You know what I mean? I didn't know that I was going to be able to top last year. It's what if we just do a live one, be a little different, be interesting, and then maybe next year I can go back to doing some kind of pre-recorded content.
Yeah, just wait till everybody forgets about last year. Just got to give it a couple years.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move into some... But yeah, anyway, people listening, Mitch will be here eventually, allegedly. He told us that he needed 5 minutes. That was, of course, 14 minutes ago. So we're just going to go ahead and get started, and then once he shows up, we'll bring him in. A lot of football stuff. We're hoping to do a mock draft today once he gets here, but in the meantime, let's talk about some other football things. Vinny, here's an interesting stat that was put out. I think I pointed out last time that if you want to win in fantasy football in our league, you draft Drew Brees. He had won 3 or 4 championships. This is the last 15 years worth of passing yard leaders. Notice the trend on there?
Sorry, I can't see your screen right now.
Oh shoot! Hold on. My bad.
Okay. Well, I was just letting I was gonna text you that I was like, hey, by the way, I don't know if you want to be sharing, but I cannot see anything. Yeah, our viewers may be able to see something, but I cannot.
Ironically, I always make sure the viewers can see it. It's my co-host that I always forget. So here you go. Can you see it now?
Yes.
This is the last 15 years worth of passing yard leaders in the NFL. You'll notice that one gentleman's picture's on there a lot. Another interesting thing, these 15 players, only 3 of them are still starting quarterbacks. So it's really kind of wide open for who might lead the league in passing, because, I mean, Mahomes, we probably don't think is going to do it again. He's not looked like that. Since 2022, he has not looked like a high-powered passing quarterback. I'm not saying he's not good. Please no one say that. That is not what I'm saying. But he hasn't been the 5,000-yard passer the last couple of years. That's not what he is. Tua, we both know, is not going to stay healthy. I think Burrow has a chance to repeat, obviously, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind of wide open. So if you had to pick someone right now before the season to be the passing yard leader, since Drew Brees isn't coming out of retirement anytime soon, who would you put your money on?
It's a great question. Definitely not Deshaun Watson. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Even though he is still in the league.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say that he was. I pointed out starter. Jameis is still in the league too, but he's not a starter. So.
Before I give my answer, I just want to know what does this person who put this graphic together have against Peyton Manning? Why did they have to do him so dirty? Everybody else gets a normal headshot, and then they made his forehead the size of Drew Brees' entire photo. That is just not fair.
Yeah, that was a strange choice. And also, and neither the viewers can see it, but there's apparently a piece of dirt or something, a smudge on my screen that I didn't realize, and it's right on one of Drew Brees' teeth. So it looks like he's missing a tooth in one of the photos, which is hilarious to me. So I purposely haven't cleaned it because it's funny.
No, I don't know. That's such a good question. It's hard to think as bad as even the Bengals defense has been in the preseason that it's not Joe Burrow again this year. But it's gonna have to be somebody in a high volume offense that throws the ball. So you're gonna say okay, Allen's out, Jackson's out, Daniels is out. So you're left with guys like Burrow, Goff, Baker.
Well, yeah. So that's what I was going to point out. So if you look at the top 5 from last year, in passing yards, right? So there's obviously Burrow, like he's a standout. Jared Goff has a brand new offensive coordinator, and as I mentioned on an episode long time ago, the Lions played all but one game in a dome last season. That's not going to happen this year. They're going to have to play outside, play in the weather. That's going to affect his stats. Baker Mayfield, look, he's been a gunslinger 2 years in a row, but Godwin's not going to be back at the start of the year. You know, there's a rookie taking his place. We don't know how long that's going to take to develop, and it's kind of hard. And Mike Evans is getting older, so like I'm not saying I want to bet against Baker, but like that's a hard pace to keep up with when your receivers are either aging or injured or rookies. Geno Smith is on a brand new team, and I can't believe I'm saying that Geno Smith was the fourth most passing yards last year, but he was. And then Sam Darnold, new team, and he faded hard in the stretch. So when you look at the top five, like other than Burrow, are any of those guys that you're like thinking right away, like, oh yeah, they can lead the league in passing? That's why I think it's wide open this year.
I think if anything, Goff maybe has the best chance, just because like I know it's a new offensive coordinator, but it's probably going to be a very similar system, and like they just have so many offensive weapons.
Yeah, they still have all the weapons. Yeah, for sure.
That it's not him, and I do think Baker has the potential. Yeah, I mean I don't think he's going to repeat those numbers, but I think we all said that 2 years ago. So like those three, I think have a shot, but to say that Goff or Baker are in the same league as Burrow is unfair to Joe Burrow. I think there's other people maybe further down the list that could take a leap. Like, Herbert's been there before. Purdy just got all that money. Stafford is Stafford. He has that gunslinger mentality. C.J. Stroud had a really weird down year, and like they've got no running backs that I know of right now. So it's really weird. It's like weird. Who jumps into that top five that's not normally there? Like the Geno or the Baker that actually have a chance to compete for that number one. Look at the pass attempts for Joe Burrow. 652. Like that's 80 clear of like the next closest.
That's the thing, because so you look at his 650, and then you got a few guys in the 570s, 580s, Baker, Geno, Mahomes, A-Rod. Another case against A-Rod, by the way. The second most pass attempts in the league last year, like ninth in yards. But what I think is
Patty Mahomes. That's weird. 581, and like he was as bad as he was from a fantasy standpoint.
Well, what's strange to me is how few people broke 4,000 yards last season, right? Mitch and I made pie bets on 4,000 yard passers. No wonder we lost. Only 6 guys clipped 4K. That's wild to me that there were so few. Now, maybe I'm just like, what's the word? Like, not fantasizing. I'm like putting people on more of a pedestal than they should be, but I feel like there's usually more than 4K passers. Yeah, look at the year before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There were 10 4K passers the year before, right? Thanks. I think it was a big down year last year in passing. So the question then becomes, Vinny, are we going to see an uptick back to the passing stats of old, where we see a lot more guys slinging the rock for a lot more yardage? Or is this the new normal where we have more balanced offense, more runs, and more what have you, that's going to prevent those high number quarterbacks? Because I think that was a big difference between, I think, last year and other years. Is 10 guys over 4K passing yards versus 6. That's a huge percentage change, especially when you consider what percentage of the league that is.
I do think we're going to start seeing a downtick in that. Honestly, I just saw an infographic earlier, and it was talking about how like the too high safety that can rotate has been like the death of, or like the shell cover 2 has been like the death of like receiving yards, and it showed like receiving statistics of like so many people in a single season with 1,500 yards or more. I think defenses are adjusting, and there's not a whole bunch of like pure pocket passers. Like Aaron Rodgers is gone, Brady's gone, Stafford is aging, and now we're getting kind of these more dynamic. I can keep the pocket, or I can keep the play open and going. I can move out of the pocket. I'm a scrambling quarterback. Like that's kind of been what's hitting recently. So like the Joe Burrows are few and far between. So I mean, look at like the hype behind Caleb Williams was like, oh, he's a Patrick Mahomes. Like he can scramble and keep the play going for longer. So I don't know. I think maybe this is a new normal. We lost guys like Kirk Cousins. Dak was hurt last year. I think the pure pocket passers are aging out, and now we're getting this hybrid model.
Mitch, welcome into the pod. Nice of you to join us.
Hello.
Hello. I'll get your opinion real quick before we move on. So I was showing this graphic. So the last 15 passing leaders in the NFL, you'll notice a trend. We mentioned that Drew Brees was the guy, but of the last 15 passing leaders, only 3 of them are still starting quarterbacks. And when you look at those 3, one is Mahomes. He is a shell of his former self from a passing standpoint. Next is Tua. Tua is a guy who, at least I don't believe, is going to finish out the season. I imagine you guys don't either. We'll come to that later. And then Burrow. I think he's the clear-cut favorite. But the question that I asked Mitch was, besides Joe Burrow, who do you think has the potential to lead the league in passing yards next season?
Ooh. Besides Joe Burrow, who has the most passing yards? I don't know. That's tough. That could be.
And you can say if it's just a slam dunk, it's going to be Burrow in the discussion. But if it's not Burrow, who could it be? I think is the question, because we were looking at stats, and when you look at the yardage stats, there was a downtick. It's been on average around 10 players a season that throw for 4,000 yards or more. Last season, there were only 6 players that clipped 4,000 yards. And when you look at those 6 names, we kind of already went through them, but it's like Baker Mayfield has one receiver who's older, one who's hurt, one's a rookie. Geno Smith is on a brand new team. Sam Darnold's on a brand new team. Jared Goff has a new offensive coordinator, and his Pro Bowl center's no longer there. So there's a lot of question marks with these guys, and then it kind of falls off a cliff after there. The only other 4K passer is Lamar, and Lamar's great, but I don't think anyone's going to pick him to lead the league in passing. That's not where his skill set is. So.
Yeah, it's tough because if you asked me a year ago in the summer who would lead the league in passing yards that year, you're not saying Goff, Smith, Darnold, or even Rodgers. Look at Rodgers all the way up there. No, just kidding.
Well, yeah, we already talked about that. Rodgers had the second most pass attempts, but was still 9th in yardage, or 8th in yardage. So, yeah, his completion percentage dropped pretty massively, is what we happened there. But yeah, go on.
It's also going to be more probably circumstantial for a team. Whereas, you got to have a bad defense that's going to require you to throw the ball a lot. So, Justin Herbert, their defense is pretty good, and they're going to run the ball a lot, or type of thing. Purdy might be a good example of someone who could do it. Murray could be someone.
Purdy's who Vinny said as well. Potential, for sure.
I mean, the ones I would say that you said lead the league in passing, or just hit the 4,000 mark.
The question was who would be because this is people who lead the league in passing besides Drew Brees doing it 5 times, which is just wild, and Brady's on here twice. It's always been someone different, right? It's Brady was on here twice, but on 2 different teams. So it's really 2 different, 2 different things. He's on 2 different teams. He retired once between those 2 seasons. So really, it was all different people, other than the 5-peat of Drew Safer with giant forehead Peyton breaking it up one year.
Yeah. So besides Burrow, who's clearly close to the 5,000, that's a little bit an outlier. But if you look at the difference between Goff all the way to Mahomes or even Rodgers, what is that, 600-700 yards passing? Well, that's just probably 2 or 3 weeks where you had an extra 100 yards because your team was losing, as opposed to that's probably circumstantial based on picking the passing yard leader is a little tough, and it could be someone, it could be a lot of people, because it's just once they get into the red zone, they just don't convert as much. I could see Stafford. I could see, Love. I can see basically besides the mobile running QBs. Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of agree with me because what I said was basically other than Burrow, because when you look at the passing attempts, Burrow threw the ball 70 more times than the next closest guy.
Yeah.
Other than him, it's pretty wide open. We don't know who it's going to be, which is interesting and fun. All right, I'm going to move on to the next topic because we got a lot to get through today. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is drafting, because we're going to be doing a mock draft. So here's a little draft image that I found. We all want to have Jesse play in our league. So look at Team 4 Jesse. Look at his picks by round in this league. Now I don't know what kind of league this is. My assumption would be it's a PPR league with 2 wide receivers and a flex, because that's how most leagues are these days. Look at his picks. Was he in a coma and thought it was still 2015 with this draft?
I mean, yeah, that's really bad. The Chris Olave pick is so random when you look at who else he drafted.
Well, he drafted Nick Chubb in the 6th round.
Above Chuba Hubbard and Aaron Jones.
Yeah. He took Mahomes in the first round, followed by Austin Eckler. Eckler, not a starter, by the way, for those for those who aren't clear, he's not the starting running back for this football team. So
I think the worst part is like knowing it's a snake draft. Like he took Eckler over G.T. Henry, Jacobs, Irving, Chase Brown, Kyron, Pollard. Like I'm so confused by this.
yeah. So yeah, I just thought this is fun. So
He even had a chance. He even had a chance to make up for this by taking Kyron in the 4th round and didn't do it, or taking Bucky or Chase Brown in the 3rd. Like this is iconically terrible.
Yeah, so I just I hope that you all get to draft with someone like Jesse during this season.
Yes. I did want to just flash back really quick to talking about like the passing leader. I just had this realization that like Jared Goff had like 4,700 yards. He was the second, right?
Yeah, 46. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, didn't they have like I'm looking? Let's see. They beat the Seahawks by 13. I'm just gonna count blowout wins, like more than a single score. So the Lions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They had 8 blowout wins that were by 10 points or more. And he still had 4,600 passing yards. If you assume there's a little bit of a regression to their team as a whole with Ben Johnson gone and like maybe they're in more close games, they might be throwing the ball more and they might be in more close games and actually need him. Like I'm actually pretty fascinated by that.
Second in yards, but 10th in attempts. Meaning there were 8 guys who threw more passes than him that did not beat him in yards.
He's so underappreciated.
No, he was great, but again, the stats that I pointed out, like, and again, I'm not trying to scare people away from Jared Goff, but when you look at his career, Jared Goff's not a guy you considered to be a top QB. Everyone kind of thought he was decent. Like, look, the wildest trade in NFL history from a production standpoint is Stafford going to the Rams, then winning a Super Bowl, Goff going to the Lions and getting good, because he was not good as a Ram. So that's a weird trade, right? Like, how did that work out for both teams? Cool. But the issues with Detroit is they lose their offensive coordinator. How important is that? We know Mitch thinks it's very important, and I tend to agree. 2, they've lost their Pro Bowl center. And then 3, the weird stat that I had is they played all but one game last year in a dome. Home games, away games, what have you. That was just luck of the gods with regards to scheduling. Now, they play in a dome in their home stadium, obviously, so their home games will be in a dome, but that still leaves 8 to 9 games on the road, and the odds of them getting 8 to 9 road games against players in a dome is extremely unlikely. I think their only non-dome game last year, they had 2 outside. Sorry, they played 2 outdoor games last year. It was the Packers and Bears on the road because those teams are in their division and don't play in a dome. Every other game they played was in a dome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anywho, yeah. So those are little fun facts that I had set up. And then I have one last game that I'd like to play with you guys before we get to the draft. But before I get to my little game, does anyone have any other news or potentially any other non-football news that you want to share or discuss?
No, not on my end. I think a lot of the trade rumors are kind of fun. Like, for example, Trey Hendrickson rumored Raiders being the front runner, but then also they think he's staying at Cincinnati. Like, where's McLaurin going to end up? This whole Brian Robinson Jr. situation. But if you haven't heard about any of the holdouts and the trades in a while, then you're not listening to the pod. So,
has there really been many like preseason trades that we can remember? I don't. It's kind of tough, right?
Not like fantasy impactful ones that I know of.
The Saints just traded for Vele, the Broncos like 4th-string wide receiver. I thought that was kind of a weird trade, but.
Oh, speaking of stats and like oddball stats, you mentioned the Broncos. I learned this today. So the Broncos were a playoff team last year, right? So everyone thinks, oh, rookie QB made the playoffs. They're on the uptick. Like, this could be their year. Do you guys know what the Broncos' record was last season against teams with a winning record?
Ooh, I would guess like 1.
So for context, they played 9 games against teams that were above 500.
Oh, then I'm gonna say 2-7.
They were 1-8.
1-8
Against teams with a winning record. The Denver Broncos only won 1 of those games. So if you figure that they're not going to get that lucky this year. Now look, they were also in some close games like the other way, like the the loss to the Chiefs that was a blocked kick or whatever. Like, I'm not saying they can't be good. I like Bo. He was an Auburn guy. The Broncos D is obviously very good. I'm not knocking them, but I'm just saying that stat scared me today when I found that out, because like I didn't really from not from a fantasy standpoint, but just from how good that team might be in the NFL this year is like that's an important stat, because when you think about I think back to the year the Raiders finally had a good season, the year where we had 12, 13 wins. Like, we had 12 or 13 wins because we were in 10 one-score games and won them all. And that's really lucky when you're winning all your one-score games. When that luck flips the other side, you're gonna have a bad time. And I think that's the Broncos going 1-8 against winning teams and just happen to play a bunch of teams with losing records. So they made the playoffs. Look, it's great that you beat the bad teams. You're supposed to do that, but you also have to beat the good teams. You want to be good. So, but that was an interesting stat. All right, Mitch, you got anything you want to discuss before I go into the little game here?
No. Let's do the
All right.
game.
All right, so we're calling this segment. That's right. It's a segment. I'm going to name it. I'm calling this the Risky Biscuits. These are risky players. You have to risk it to get the biscuit. So my question to you, gentlemen: do you fast or do you feast? So on these biscuits, are you fasting? You're like, nah, man, I'm not eating that. I'm good. Or are you feasting? Are you going to town because you think the risk is worth the reward? So starting off, risky biscuit number 1, Devin Achane. And now the reason that he is a risky biscuit is, like pretty much all the players on the Dolphins roster, I could have chosen any of them. I'm choosing Achane. He is reliant on Tua, which is weird to say for a running back, but it's true. Last year, and this is using PPR points because I don't have the stats for standard, but last year in PPR leagues, in the games that Tua started, he averaged 19.5 PPR points per game. In the games without Tua, he only averaged 7.7. For context, the number 2 fantasy running back last year, Derrick Henry, averaged 19.2. So he averaged more points per game than Derrick Henry in games that Tua started. But he didn't finish as a top 5 running back because the games where Tua didn't start, he was awful. So the question is, do you risk it with Achane? Because this is a guy who theoretically could have a really strong year. I mean, he had a strong year last year, but without the games without Tua, it looks a lot worse. He still finishes top 10 running back or whatever this is, but there's a risk there. Do you guys eat this risky biscuit, or are you passing? I'm just saying in general, by the way. I'm not asking at your draft spot, just as a general rule.
I think he's an interesting one. I will say before last week, I was definitely more of a feast, depending on the price. And now I'm more of a fast. And mainly, I mean, they're holding him out for preventative measures for a lower body soft tissue injury. And I'm not a fan of any lower body soft tissue injuries when it comes to wide receivers or running backs like that.
Yeah, and to be fair,
I don't know what they won't say what it is. So
there's also injury concerns with him too, right? Going into last year, there was injury concern with him because the year prior he did get injured and he wore the concussion helmet. And again, I'm not knocking players for being concerned with safety, but a small guy wearing that helmet just looks hilarious. So yeah, I think people were less afraid of injury after he played the full season last year and showed he could take the workload. But as you mentioned, now he's hurt in camp.
Yeah, that just makes me more of a fast. I mean,
okay.
I don't know. Ask me again if he falls to the 3rd round.
Right. Yeah. So for the sake of this conversation, it's based on around where their ADP is, right? Fasting or feasting. I'm not saying would you take him even in the 10th round? Of course you would. I'm talking about around his ADP. Are you fasting or feasting? Mitch, what about you? What are your thoughts?
It depends, where am I drafting him?
Well, so it's for whatever his ADP is, right?
His
so
CBS
on
Sports ADP is 13.
So in CBS
what's around him? It's Genty, right? And
so we're talking about middle of the 2nd round, for example.
So if I go to all positions, it's who he's being around. It's what, Kyron Williams, and where is he? Okay, I got it right here. So definitely would be taking CD above them, like Kyron, Taylor, Burrow, Bucky, Nico, James, Neighbors. So I guess I am fasting.
You're fasting, okay.
But then, but as soon as you get to the end of round 2, then it's probably more of a feast. But at the same time, here the question becomes is how significant is the calf tear? Because if he wasn't, some people have him in the top five aspect, right? So it's just kind of like, I guess how much does it scare you? Also, if they just released more of the doctor reports or whatever, then I think it'd be people would be more inclined to know. But they're not really telling us, right? Or has there been more information today? I apologize.
No,
No,
I think they say it's a calf and it's preventative and it's not. They're just like, oh, he could practice, but dude, how many times have we signed up for the Christian McCaffrey, like his knee's fine, or the AJ Brown, oh, he tweaked his hamstring in preseason, and then you're like, oh, I'll draft him, and then like they play 5 games.
yeah, that's the thing. So the NFL has very strict reporting policies when it comes to injuries during the season. Their reporting requirements during the preseason is not as strict. They can get away with a lot more stuff. Kind of like teams used to do, always saying someone was questionable all the time, so they got rid of the questionable designation. So you had to say they're probable or doubtful. And during season, you have to be a lot more upfront about what's going on. In the preseason, they can hide stuff, and so that's kind of the concern here. Is like, what are you hiding? And the concern with a lot of the Dolphins players is, will Tua stay healthy? Well, with A-Chain, you now have the question of, will Tua stay healthy, and will he stay healthy, because we don't know what this injury's like. So it sounds like you're both fasting. I tend to agree, especially given our league is not a PPR league. Again, he's still good. Look at his stats, right? But like, a lot of his value comes from pass catching out of the backfield. I think he led the league in receiving yards for running backs. Yeah, he did. So, I mean, pass catching out of the backfield is great, but that's 78 receptions. That's 78 points you don't get in our league because we're a standard league. So for me, I'm probably fasting as well, mainly because of the injury designation, as Vinny said. All right, moving on to the next risky biscuit. Someone you guys just mentioned, we'll talk about him. Run CMC, Christian McCaffrey. So his first 3 years in the NFL, he did not miss a single game. However, over the last 5 years, he has missed the bulk of 3 seasons. And, that's obviously been a killer for people who drafted him. However, in the 2 seasons he did play, he balled out, including 2 years ago. And these stats are taken from Sleeper. It's the easiest site to get stats from. 2 years ago, he was in 47% of Super Bowls on Sleeper. Meaning that if you drafted CMC on the Sleeper platform, fantasy football platform, you basically had a 50% chance of making your Super Bowl on him alone. Right? That's how good he was 2 years ago. And then you have last year for Chris, where he basically didn't play a game. So the question is, for Run CMC, is this a guy you're willing to take? Because it's one of those where if he plays a full season, he could very well be RB1. But he could also have another one of these seasons where he plays 4 games and gets you 80 carries on the season, and then you're like, well, that sucked. So, gentlemen, given his ADP, which on CBS, which is the site where we're using these stats from just because that's what we happen to have, he's going around to pick 8. Are you feasting or are you fasting?
I don't see how you can be concerned with Achan and not concerned with McCaffrey. It sounds just like, if it's the same soft tissue tear, isn't that the same thing that can keep happening throughout your career? I'm not sure. So that's why it's just like, this is more of a what the medical records are and what they are actually true or not. And because the healthy McCaffrey probably should be drafted, towards the top of the list. So why is he going so low? Well, it's because we don't know if you can trust it. So like if McCaffrey goes through this year unscathed, injury free, but even has an average year, people will probably be willing to draft him much higher in this position next year. But Christian McCaffrey has 1 injury this year. Where is he going next year? So that's just the kind of thing is, I don't think you can know. I think this is just truly gambling. Like,
well, yeah, it
yeah.
definitely is, Mitch. I agree with you. I think the question is that a gamble you're willing to take? Because like you said, I think the difference between him and A-Chain is like, if I knew for a fact they would both be healthy, I'd windmill slam CMC, and I'm still not taking A-Chain first, right? That's the difference, right? If they're both healthy, you want CMC. So,
If they're both healthy, they're both potential top 5 running backs in the league. So,
Yeah.
and I don't see like my concern was, I think I said on this podcast a while ago, is the Niners are very much in Super Bowl or bust. I know they had a bad year, so we tend to forget on a yearly basis. But if you take 1 step or 2 steps back and look at the broad 3-year, 4-year basis, the Niners could be the second best team in the NFL for the last 5 years. They're thinking Super Bowl or bust. every year, whether that's right or wrong. So if you're thinking Super Bowl bust, why are you running McCaffrey in September, October? Whereas HN, I don't think there's thinking Super Bowl bust. So as soon as he's healthy, it's more of a hey, go get it. So this is a tough one. And then again, coming down the play caller, if this wasn't Kyle Shanahan and we were talking about anyone else, I think it would be a lot more obvious for me. But once you're dealing with Kyle Shanahan, it's extremely same reason with Kyron Williams. It's really hard on any draft to pass a Sean McVay running back or a Shanahan running back. So. And then Mike McDaniel's is not too far off. This is a gamble that you're gonna have to take, and I would rather take this gamble in the second round on H than McCaffrey in the first round. But that's not saying I wouldn't take the gamble on both. If my team was McCaffrey HN, I think I would be smiling.
Right, but
So-
again, just to clarify, Mitch, the question
completely agree
isn't would you take McCaffrey? Obviously, all three of us would
Okay,
take
sorry.
McCaffrey at the right place. The question is, would you take him at ADP? So, assuming his ADP right now on CBS, which is that we draft on, is 9, are you willing to take him around 9, or is that too much of a risk taking him first round?
I think the problem for me is if I personally, if this has absolutely nothing to do with my opinion, if I feast on McCaffrey, he's gonna fast, and if I fast on McCaffrey, he's gonna feast. Like that's just how it's gonna happen. I mean, man, I tell we just had a conversation I think like 2 weeks ago. Like, I want to draft like the high upside, high risk people, and then just live with the consequences. Win 13 or win 3.
Right, but
It's
but
really
do you want to
hard
do
not
that in
to
the first
feast
round
on
though?
the-
Because we always talk about how you can't win in the first round, but you can lose.
Right. No, that's what I agree. That's why it's like McCaffrey to me is so difficult because if oh man, I'd have to say feast on him maybe just because like he's one of the few people in the back half of round 1, early half of round 2 who have RB1 potential. But like you're also taking that huge like that's why he's going 8th. I mean, let's be honest. Like guaranteed healthy McCaffrey would be top
Two.
2. A guaranteed, his risk is baked in. So I'm gonna feast at pick 8 just because if you're really trying to make or break on a season, like I mean, you kind of have to, right?
Well,
Uh,
not trying to knock anyone's influence or influence in any way, but like, what's the negative on Barkley? Why would Barkley not be number one? Like, why would you take Chase or Bijan above Barkley?
I don't,
yeah, because
I don't think you can.
there-
Yeah,
there's people
It's
that
the
are
engine.
concerned about his usage, right? We talked
Right,
about
exactly.
this.
So there has to be the
But like,
same application of McCaffrey type
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, if you're
yeah,
worried about his usage, he's gonna drop. If you're not, he's probably one or two.
yeah, exactly.
right. But
Exactly.
there's not huge like even though Saquon has missed a season with injury, there's not the same level of injury concerns because as I mentioned, in 3 of the last 5 seasons, McCaffrey has missed almost the entire season.
How many has
So
Barkley missed?
how many? I think he's only missed the one. Well, no, I think he's been injured twice, maybe. But those are both like
Yeah,
early on in his career, I believe. Let's go to stats here.
yeah. I had him in between the hurt years.
Yeah,
I think. It was like
2020. Like
2019.
he missed 3 games a couple of times and 2 games. Like he never finishes a season. Like it's rare for him to finish the entire season, but only once did he miss the entire year, right? So
Okay.
that's
And
where
then
it is.
last year he sat out. He sat out the last game of the year, so like that almost doesn't even count.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly right. That doesn't count. And 14 games of Barkley still probably.
I think the biggest
Yeah.
concern with Barkley is like he's had 3 good fantasy seasons and a bunch of bad ones, and people still like are wild about him.
Oh yeah.
That's the crazy
Oh,
thing to
yeah.
me. Like,
Gotcha. Yeah.
but anyway,
I mean, Saquon's pretty much It's kind of funny though. Like technically, historically, he has the same injury risk as like a McCaffrey, and
I was gonna
like,
say historically, backs
Sa-
that get over
Sa-
300 carries that
Saquon-
aren't named Derrick Henry, they don't do so well the next season.
Saquon's hit on that risk is like you're either pick 1 or pick 2. Like I'm not hearing Saquon being picked 3 or 4. You know what I mean? So like it's so funny that like he might get. It's kind of what happened to CMC, a couple years ago. Like his like injury risk caked in is you either taking him 1 or you're taking him 2. You know, so it's just interesting.
All right,
Yeah,
let's,
Achan's very similar though. Like if like you said, guaranteed like healthy Achan, healthy Tua, like you're talking middle round one, possibly first half of round one, but instead, like Achan is in a really weird situation. Like Miami, nobody knows what's going on. Like talent wise, you think he could be a top six, but like situation wise, you're like, ah, man, do I take him in the first? Do I take him early second? It's really, that's a risk. It's still a risk.
All right. Moving on. Yeah, no, it definitely is. That's the decision everyone has to make. Fasting or feasting. Taking him. I think taking him round one is just too risky. Like I get it. I get that it can be a season winner, but it can also be a season killer, as you saw with Chris. And I would rather give myself a chance to fight for it and have to make smart waiver moves or trades or what have you to win by taking someone who has less potential than risk it with him. And then if he flops, just kind of being out for the season and then having to spend 14 weeks still playing because you don't want to be the guy that gives up on the team, but knowing you're not going to make it. All right, moving along. Next one, the next risky biscuit, Sam Darnold. This is a guy who was a nobody, but part of that's, he played for some really awful football teams, Jets and Panthers. Then all of a sudden ended up on a good team with a good offensive-minded coach, and he balled out. However, he ended up as QB7 on the season, but he did fade towards the end of the year, and now he's on a new team. So what's it like on the new team? Did people catch up with him? Colin, what's his name? Used to be on ESPN, now he's a radio host. Colin something. You guys know who I'm talking about. Thank you. Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd unveiled his list of top 10 teams going into the season, and he had the Seahawks at 6. So obviously he's high on Sam Darnold. So I ask you, gentlemen, risk it for the biscuit, or are you fasting on Sam Darnold being your starting fantasy quarterback this year? This question's not about ADP so much as would you be comfortable with him as your starter on the season?
I
don't know what his ADP is going to be on.
I cannot fast that fast enough. I feel like I don't need to talk about it. We were like, please don't go to the Raiders. Like, you're not going to find a better situation than Kevin O'Connell, great offensive line, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson. Like, there's no way that he goes to Seattle and he even replicates top 10 fantasy, let alone top 10 real life. So, I'm so out on Darnold it hurts.
Mitch?
Yeah, this one's tough. I don't know. With Kubiak's running style offense, I think it's a little different. If he had a different coordinator there, then maybe so. But I don't think that's to say Darnold will be bad. So am I fasting or feasting on Darnold? I don't know if I really was targeting Darnold too much in any of my leagues. But at the same time, I'm still fasting on, I think, a lot of Seahawks players, and they're still going to go out there and play. Like, there's still I think there's fantasy value there. It's not a dead zone. I mean, people like to talk about the Giants and the Browns and the Saints, but no one's ever been saying the Seahawks are terrible, terrible, terrible. So it's almost like everyone's trying to be quiet about the Seahawks and keep them a hush secret because it's what they want on fantasy day. So I don't really know if this is anything against Darnold. I'm happy with Darnold being in Seattle because, Geno Smith and them just threw it so much. I'm not sure what's realistic of what's fantasy-wise. Also with Metcalf gone and JSN now being the number one, gaining the number one coverage on the other teams. It's just really tough to tell Kenneth Walker's health. So I'm going to maybe fast on Darnold, but kind of feast on the Seahawks, especially where a lot of their ADPs are.
Yeah, worth noting.
Tough question.
Worth noting, Geno Smith was 4th in passing yards last season. So as you mentioned, the Seahawks did chuck the rock. I think he was 3rd in attempts behind Burrow and Rodgers. 4th in attempts. So the Seahawks threw the ball a lot last year. So Darnold will be throwing the ball a lot. But yeah, CBS currently has the projections with Darnold as QB 28. So CBS obviously not high on Sam Darnold going into this year. So sounds like you guys are all out on Darnold, and I am as well. It'd be one thing if he had a few seasons in Minnesota doing what he did, but when you look at his career numbers, he basically has sucked his entire career other than last year. And again, I don't blame him fully for that because he played for the Jets and for the Panthers. So it's not that I hold that against him, but it's just like it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, the real Sam Darnold is the guy in Minnesota who had more yards, more touchdowns, more completion percentage, better completion. No, I can't buy that. I'm not looking to ride with him as my QB1 going into the season. Even me who waits and gets a late round QB historically, that's not the move I'm pulling this year. I'm not looking to pair Darnold with anybody to make a run. So, all right, moving on to the next risky biscuit. I'm going to go to a different position here, going to wide receiver, and I think this is going to be an interesting one. Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs. For those who don't know, he is currently looking at an upcoming suspension for some off-season activities that he should not have been involved in. However, for reasons unknown, even though the league has known about this for over a year, the case is not scheduled to be heard by the NFL until after week 4, meaning he's definitely going to play the first 4 weeks of the season. But then the case happens between weeks 4 and 5, and the league is expected to ask for an 8-week suspension. So if the league were to get an 8-week suspension, that puts him out through week 13. He can't return to week 14. For those doing the math at home, the reason that that's 9 weeks, not 8, is because there's a bye week in there that doesn't count towards your suspension. So he wouldn't be able to return until week 14, which would be the last week of our regular season. Historically, players coming back from suspension, injury, etc., get eased in the offense. They don't get a full play load that week. So you're not going to get to see a full workload of him as he eases himself back in week 14. And then you're going to be in the weird position of, do I start him in the fantasy playoffs? So that's when you effectively have him back as a full-time starter after having not played in weeks and not seeing a lot his return week. Or do you bench him? And if you're benching him, why'd you even draft him? However, so that's the risk. The reward here is, what if they have this meeting in the middle of the season and that suspension, instead of 8 weeks, he negotiates it down to only 4, or they're able to negotiate to where, hey, we'll do the full 8 weeks, but he gets to postpone it to start at the beginning of next season because the Chiefs are going to fight for that. And then you end up getting him the entire season at a discounted rate because people who are afraid to take him, and he fell. So the question is, boys, are you willing to feast on Rashee Rice and roll the dice that he's either going to not get a full 8 weeks or he's going to be able to defer that suspension? Or are you famining? Are you staying out of this? You're like, you know what? I'm fasting. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, so we're seeing a trend here that come draft time, if you're drafting this week with the information that we have now, it seems there's going to be like 8 to 9 guys that either are injury related or legal. Like who's the other one? Addison or whatever. So it's kind of like someone somewhere. A lot of times they turn it over to the judge that did the same ruling on Deshaun Watson and a couple others, and you can see how that judge, I believe it's a female, will rule, and you can get a basis off that. But then when it gets hairy and confusing is the league could actually reject that ruling and do their own ruling, and then that will be held up in arbitration even longer. So let's say if it doesn't take 4 or 5 weeks till the judge's ruling, then the NFL goes against that ruling. It's not till like week 8 or 9, and then you lose Rashee Rice for the only important time of fantasy. It's like no one remembers, if you made the playoffs, you got to win your Super Bowl. So it's like if I can't win my Super Bowl and this guy who got me there, then you're gonna have a glaring hole, a number one wide receiver problem. So yeah, you want to get there and get the wins. I get all that, but what value are you drafting Rice at? So, and then on the other hand, you could look at the flip side. They might only get like a 3-game suspension from the judge, and then the league doesn't want to go against the judge ruling because then that's a slippery slope, and they just do whatever the judge does, and boom, it's only 3 weeks, and you have a top 12 fantasy wide receiver, realistically.
Yeah, his ADP, for context, Mitch, not to interrupt you, his ADP is currently in round 7. So the question is this a guy you're willing to take before round 7?
If he's only available for the first 3 or 4 weeks and then he doesn't come back till the last couple weeks, then now you're having the problem of, did I even get to the fantasy playoffs? Whereas rounds 5, 6, 7, look at the draft last year. What did Vinny get McLaurin and Brian Thomas Jr. in? What rounds did he get those guys in? What rounds did a lot of these players go in? Like rounds 5 through 8 is important rounds. It's not your glamorous rounds, but it's important. And if you're taking a guy who's only going to play 3 weeks or might miss your playoffs, that's tough. But the upside of him is huge. That's why it feels like when we're drafting, it's going to be a gamble on 6 or 7 players. And if someone hits that game, because like I know you can't do anything about it, and who cares? But if you drafted the day before kickoff, would any of that change? Or if we drafted a week ago, how much has changed? You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like it's a little confusing. I don't know who's going to take that risk. Maybe if I don't here, let me just say the full answer. Like if I don't have a wide receiver and I've gone like running back QB early or whatever, or I missed on the wide receivers and like then yeah, he's maybe someone you're more inclined to take. But if you went out and you've got like a Jefferson or a Lamb or something like that, I don't think there's a reason to waste a sixth or seventh round pick on him. So I guess it's circumstantial. I don't know though. I've not made up my mind on Rice yet in the draft. So I mean,
I
where else
think
is?
It,
Let
it's
me see who he's
also
going next to.
I'll let you go in just a second here, Vinny, but it's also worth noting that like all the hype around him is based on 3 weeks at the start of last year. And like yeah, he was an absolute baller. He was Mahomes' favorite target. Mahomes looked like he was a passing QB again. Then he got hurt. But it's like this is a guy who hasn't even played football in a year either. Like there's no guarantee he's gonna be a baller when week one happens either.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're kind of missing the fact he's one coming off injury. He did have a pretty good rookie year, so I think if it was a league besides DoD and roster settings were different, I'm probably feasting on him at his ADP. In our league, I will tell you right now, and probably the most truthful answer you'll get out of me today is I'm a fast on Rashee Rice, just because we all know like it's a small bench. Like what do we have? Like 6 bench spots, and I'm not loading up on a guy who might be my wide receiver too, but I also need to seat him on the bench for a guaranteed 4 weeks, possibly 8 weeks. Like that's rough. Like I'm gonna be the guy who tries to pick him up when inevitably somebody drops him during that lull.
Yeah, and for some additional context for the listeners, uh, so our league doesn't have IR slots, but it doesn't matter because even in leagues that do, you're not IR eligible for being suspended. So even if we had IR slots on our bench, which we don't, that's why our benches are so. That's one of the things I like about our league. It makes it where you can't just stash players. You have to be really calculated in your decisions, the risks you want to take, who you're willing to keep, who you're willing to drop. Like even in leagues that have IR slots, being suspended is not an IR eligible position. So like Vinny said, you could be looking at a guy who sits on your bench and takes up space for 8 weeks.
Yeah, or
So
Mitch's favorite thing. I mean, just go 0-2 to start the season, see what happens, and just get number one waiver wire each time, and then you'll probably be a playoff team.
that's Matt's strategy. Matt has actively told us that's a strategy, and if you look at he happens a lot. He starts the season poorly and then does kills on waivers, which basically means he's great at the waiver wire and terrible at drafting. Just not trying to give him a hard time, but I am because you drafted Deuce McAllister way too much, buddy. Where I have the opposite problem. I usually do pretty well drafting. I go 3-0 in the division, then I suck the rest of the year because I can't get anyone off waivers once my team that's way too old to be goes down because I always draft the old guys. All right,
So I think
go ahead.
also I think last year I started out 1-0 highest score, so I was last on waivers.
All right, well let's get to the main event here. We're gonna do a mock draft before we run out of time. So we have gone ahead and we're gonna be drafting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we rotate through the picks. We'll each be taking different people's spots, making our pick, and then kind of giving some reasoning behind it. Obviously, I don't want you guys to have to give anything away. So if there's someone that you're really high on, I'm not saying that you need to, take him early in this draft like you might be considering doing in the real draft. But just make the pick legitimate, right? Like don't pull a Jesse, don't draft Mahomes and with the first overall pick and be like, yeah, man, it's legit. No, man, if you think the best player this year is going to be, like, if you think, hey, I think CMC's going to be back, I really think he's going to be awesome, you would take him at 1. Well, you don't have to share that with us, right? You can still take Saquon at 1. No one's going to judge you for that. So it's going to be mock draft. So legitimate picks, how this draft could actually go. And if you want, for fun, for me, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to put my head in the person drafting based on what spot they're at, just because that's fun for me, and draft the way they would. But yeah, let's have some fun with it. And
I'm gonna preface all of my picks with, do I want that guy or don't I? I don't know. You figure it out. Am I overdrafting? Am I underdrafting?
But no,
I
this is
don't
supposed
care.
to be a mystery. It's supposed to be a mock draft. All right, so we're gonna get
Mock
this.
draft, but now it's a mind game. Maybe I take the guy I want, third overall, and I want him at 8. But you're like, that's a reach. I don't know. But maybe I'm underdrafting people intentionally. You don't know. Figure it out.
All right, weirdo. All right, well, here's the draft order on screen. Mitch, you're going to be taking, the ones, then myself, and then Vincenzo. So, Mitch, you are now on the clock as the spark plugs. You've got the first overall pick in DoD. Who are you taking?
Uh,
And also keep in mind you're my dad, right? Because that might change your
Okay.
pick.
well, that's tough because it's like I'm just gonna. If I am Nolan, then I'm taking Bijan.
I'm with you, Vinny. What you highlighted is 100% who I think he would have taken. But fair
Wait,
enough.
who do you have? I can't see.
Oh, Derrick Henry. My dad's going to take Derrick Henry. I think he's a big Henry
Oh,
guy.
really?
I just think he's a huge Henry guy. But no,
I'm
great
not
pick.
sure how he feels about. He did take Henry last year, but I'm just not sure how he feels still
Well, it says
about
he fell to him
Bama
at
versus.
12. Yeah. But yeah, okay, cool. Bijan, solid number one overall pick. I don't think anyone's going to have anything negative to say about that. Puts me on the board here. I'm the Aussies, Austin. So again, the question becomes, what are your thoughts on Saquon? Is he going to fall off? And I just think I think he can't pass that. I understand all the risk involved, but this is a guy who ran for 2,000 yards while playing one less game than he needed to. I just don't see how you pass that. So I think he takes Saquon here. So Vinny, you're now on the clock as Cam DZ.
Cam Deasy. So, top two, I feel like shook out kind of how people would expect him to shake out. Cam has a history of loving him some Jamar Chase, and I don't think we're going to get off of that. I think Cam loves him some wide receivers. He loves him some Jamar Chase. And let's just keep the ADP train going here, and let's give him Jamar Chase at 3.
All right. As someone who took wide receiver first round last year, did not work out, but hopefully it does better for Cam this year. All right, Mitch, you're on the board, and you're now putting your head in a different Sparks. You're now the Flying Penguins and break. Who you taking?
I didn't. I mean, last year he took Jonathan Taylor, and I didn't even think he knew who Jonathan Taylor was.
That makes it a difficult
I,
decision, yeah, for sure.
so let's flip a coin here. Wait, so who was number three? It went Bijan, who then Chase? Sorry.
Bijan, Barkley, and then Chase. Are you looking at the spreadsheet, Mitch? Because you can see, because we're putting the picks in as they go.
Oh, I am. I'm not. But is
That's
that
all right.
through the text?
I can help with that. I can put it on screen.
I was looking on your screen, but that's fine.
Well, I hide. I don't show everything. There you go, Mitch. Now you can see on my screen.
Oh yeah.
So on the left,
box
is the
score.
picks. So
Yeah, got
the ADP is the ADP from CBS, and the left is the picks we're doing.
I mean, if I'm Adam, probably Jameer Gibbs.
You think he's just going straight ADP?
I mean, either that or it's going to be Lamar Jackson. I'm not
Well,
sure.
that's what I'm saying. Who do you think he's going to take? Or who, this is a mock.
He's going to take the top of the list like he did last
Okay,
year.
okay. That's unfortunate because I'm Vinny here, and I think Vinny would have loved Gibbs falling to him. I think Vinny's upset right now. I think Vinny really wanted Gibbs to fall to him, and he didn't. So now he's in a situation where he has to make a decision. And I think this is a pick that Vinny's going to hate it, but he's going to make it anyway. And he's going to pick Josh Jacobs. I think Vinny's going to hate having to make that pick, but I think that's a running back that gets good volume, and I think he's going to go that line.
That's I'm not going to speak to anything that Alex just said. That's very. I'm the first one. This is kind of weird. I'm the first one whose player actually got picked because we're all in the last half. That is actually fairly accurate. I mean, it's really hard to pass up the fact that Josh Jacobs took Team Phoenix to a Super Bowl last year. So
after that amazing trade where you ended up trading a much better wide receiver than you thought you were going to be trading to Sylvie, but
yeah,
still.
yeah. So now the falls to Matt Black. It's going to be really hard, I think, here to pass up on Justin Jefferson or Derrick Henry. But if there's one thing I know about Matt, it is feast or famine. And we just had a very long discussion about feasting and famining. And I think Christian McCaffrey sitting there at 6, you're like, dang, that is almost too juicy to pass up. And it's a risk that Matt takes.
At 6, and then what's the difference between you at 5 thinking he's too juicy to pass up?
Well, because you just said Matt's feast or famine. This is right in Matt's wheelhouse. It doesn't matter if McCaffrey's off to a slow start and he has to play the waivers early because that's what Matt's good at. Matt has perfected the art of playing the waiver. So if Matt gets a slow start out of CMC, then he gets to play the waivers, and then by mid-season, when he believes that CMC is back to form, he's gotten the best guy off the waivers because he didn't do so hot weeks 1 and 2, and he's got CMC at full form. That's a strat for sure.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Obviously, it relies on CMC coming back to full form in the middle of the season, if not blitz him to his face, but like that's legitimate strategy. I will say for those listening, like you guys think we're crazy for not taking Henry yet, and maybe we are, right? Maybe there's a world where Vinny takes Henry instead of Jacobs, but I just thought that was too fun to put Jacobs there. So, all right, Mitch, you're up. You're the Gummy Bears. So now that you've seen this, do Chris and the Gummy Bears run it back with Jefferson, who blew up on him a couple years ago, or does he do something different?
The two players that he's probably going to be deciding between blew up on him 2 years in a row, Jefferson and McCaffrey.
Well, he's not debating on McCaffrey now, right? Because the chaos has him. So
yeah. Well, I think Henry might go ahead of Jacobs. So, yeah. So I think Chris is not afraid and is willing. You guys talk about a risk in the first round. I think Genty might be a better risk. Is in all areas, whereas like you talk about people willing to take a risk on McCaffrey. I don't know. I think people are quietly not saying, or maybe they haven't seen much preseason football or whatever, but he looked real good, and Chip Kelly does not have bad running backs. So someone in this top 7 is going to be not afraid and do Genty. So I'll just put him there for Chris.
all right, well that puts me on the board as the Avengers, as Mitch Black, and here I am looking at this list, and it's a tough decision for me because sitting here as Mitch, I'm a big Justin Jefferson guy. You know, I like him a lot. I talk about how he's a great receiver, but I also know that receiver is not necessarily the best thing to take in round 1. As we talked about during the draft video, only one time ever has receiver won the chip. But Mitch does like the 0 RB strat, so there is that. So now Mitch is left with the decision of Henry versus Jefferson, and I think as much as I want to take Jefferson for Mitch, I think the real answer is Mitch takes Henry and then talks shit and makes fun of us for passing Henry this far down to him.
Whoever Mitch gets at 8, it's going to be someone who falls, and he's going to talk shit about it. That's just
100%.
the truth of it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to hear for like 3 years straight, I can't believe you let me have Josh Allen in the second round.
Well, that's what happens when you pick 6 through 8 for 5 years in a row. You have to wait till someone falls and talk shit. You don't have an opportunity to be like, Barkley #1, bitches.
I also just realized that Alex has the luxury of being able to troll both of us this entire mock
100%.
draft.
When I agreed to do this, because like for those listening, we tried to set it up where no one took their own pick, but there's no way to do that going 1, 2, 3. We happen to all be in the 2 slot, so I agreed to do it. Part of it because I got to troll them, but also because then I can just maybe my pick will actually be legitimate, Vinny. It's going to be the question of, is that really who I want? Question mark, because I'm actually picking for me, but not yet.
We can make it more fun, Alex, and put Henry up for Jacobs, put Jacobs back in the pool, and then see who you'd pick there.
If Jacobs is there instead of Henry, I'm taking Jefferson for you all day. You are a Jefferson homer. I am 100% taking Jefferson for you. I think your real pick between the two might be Jefferson, but I'm going with Henry. I just feel like you're a big Baltimore guy, so I think you're gonna take them and rub it in our face that he felt to you. Anyway, let's move on. Vinny, you're on the board now. Revis and Butthead. So Luis, what's Luis doing here?
I think Luis is going to be pretty predictable. At this point, Justin Jefferson should be gone. He's just going to be like, all right. Luis has actually quietly put together teams that I've very much so liked over the past couple of years and just hasn't found his way to a Super Bowl win. So he's just going to continue to stack that. Justin Jefferson, so far, very unexciting. The top 9 of the ADP are gone. But now I feel like this is where it spices up.
It does spice up here, but before you go, though, Mitch, real quick, I will say, Vinny, you kind of talked about someone's going to pull the trigger on Genty. I think that's Luis, right? I think if Genty is there, he is 100% the guy seeing rolling the dice on a guy like Genty and hitting a home run with it. That's the kind of picks I'm used to Luis making. Like the guys that like maybe other people like aren't willing to roll the dice on yet or aren't as high on early on in their careers, and then Luis grabs them and they do great for him. So like I definitely think there's a world where Chris goes Henry, Avengers goes Jefferson, and then Revis and Butthead snatch up Austin Genty or something like that. Again, I'm spitballing, but I think there's a real world possibility of that happening. Anyway, moving on. So Mitch, you're on the board. You are the wild card himself, Miles. Miles always finds his way into having a decent team, but by making picks that the rest of us are like, that's a weird place to take him, but it works out. So props to Miles. It's not me knocking him at all. I think he's a good manager, but I definitely consider him the wild card, and me being sandwiched between him and Sylvie is not my ideal scenario. But so Mitch, you're on the clock as Team Dinosaurs. What you doing here?
If this were the pool, I think he would grab a Lamb and then wait on the turn for one of the running backs to be available. So I think it's got to be
Sure.
Lamb with this pick.
Grab the last like super solid, the wide receiver one, tier one wide receiver, so to speak.
Yeah. What two players went to make him fall? Oh, Jacobs and Genti. Okay, that makes sense. Because
So,
like I've seen some drafts where Lamb goes ahead of Jefferson, so it's interesting.
so here we are as the Sharks. That's me, for those who don't know. Uh, I'm going to do something here that maybe I'm serious about, maybe not. The last time I did this, it pissed me off for a decade because it didn't work. But it's not Cooper Kupp. It's not Cooper Kupp.
You're not going Lamar.
But I'm absolutely going Lamar Jackson. This is a guy who, look at the stats from last year, guys. Look at the quarterback stats. This is insane. So my team, or not my team, players stats. If you go to quarterback stats from last season, fantasy points, Lamar Jackson had 50 more points than Joe Burrow, who we talked about threw for 5,000 yards.
Yeah, go to
50.
2023.
Like the third player, 60. The fourth, 75. Like it is wild how much more output you got out of Lamar Jackson than anybody else. And as you guys have always talked about, and it's true, in DoD, quarterback matters more than any other league. Almost every other league has things like PPR or a flex position. We have neither. We're standard scoring, so receptions don't count. We do not have a flex, so there's no added benefit for having a third wide receiver, a third running back. I mean, it's great to have depth at your bench. I'm not saying that, but like if you get a couple of studs at running back, you're only ever benching them on their bye week, right? So quarterback carries more value, and when you look at who's left on the board, the top running backs available are guys like A-Chain. Like the top running back available right now from ADP standpoint is A-Chain. The guy we talked about was Faster or Feast, and we're all kind of fasting on him. The top wide receiver on the board, you drop all the way down to Nico Collins. That's a guy who's never finished a season healthy. I mean, he was great when he played, but like there's some risk there for a reason. He's not a tier one wide receiver, so I think all the tier one wide receivers are gone. All the safe tier one running backs are gone. Now, I'm not saying there's not running backs on this list who could end up as RB1. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's done it before. Maybe he can do it again, but I think the safe pick here, based on what's left, is Lamar Jackson. So that's what I'm taking. Vinny, you're up with serial killers.
Oh, serial killers. Sorry. In the world of Sylvie, man, talk about a wild card. One year you take Jalen Hurts. The next year you take Bijan, followed up by Puka. I just, this is a really tough one. I think she's going to see the difference and the disparity between the two seasons, and I think she takes Josh Allen here. I think she's going to be like, I went to a Super Bowl taking quarterback round one, and I had one of the worst records in the league not doing that. And so I think she is back to quarterback and saw Alex just do it, and now she's on the Josh Allen train round one.
All right. Well, she is on the turn, so she gets another pick. Couple of round one quarterbacks going to the Sparks household. So, why is Vinny? We should just Vinny, you should be on the clock. It should be a reverse order so that we're still drafting the
You
same
want to do
teams.
a reverse order? Okay,
Yeah,
I just didn't know if we wanted to do it 1, 2, 3.
No. I want it to be where you're drafting these teams every time. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I will change this after my pick.
Oh, that is actually that is kind of interesting. Do we want to change it? I mean, it would still leave me drafting the same position, so it's kind of weird that you guys aren't. So I think we should just keep drafting the same position.
Okay. I'll change the way that this looks on the screen after I pick. So I just took Josh Allen, and I was like, you know what? Let me just screw the rest of the league and take Joe Burrow. No, I'm just kidding. I think Sylvie's not going to come out of here without a running back, and I think she's going to look at Achane, Kyron Williams, and Jonathan Taylor and be like, ugh, there's a lot of risk baked into all of these, and she's just going to settle for the guy who has finished as an RB1 before and take Jonathan Taylor. I mean, loading up Josh Allen, Jonathan Taylor
I think
She's
you have the
I'm just-
absolute worst read on Sylvie. She lives in Florida. She's a sports reporter in Florida. A-Chain's higher on the ADP list. She would take A-Chain in a heartbeat, but that's fine. You've got her taking Jonathan Taylor. For the sake of integrity, I will take A-Chain then, because that's who I think she would have taken. Then I would have been left with the decision of Williams, Taylor, and Irving. And even Cook.
It says Lamar and A-Chain, I'll be shocked.
And then, well, again, I think Sylvie would have taken A-Chain there, personally. So if she does, Taylor's left for me. But fine, I'll drive. Look, so I've taken Lamar. I need to pick up a skill position player here, right? So we're talking running back, wide receivers, what I'm looking for. Top running backs available: A-Chain, Williams, Irving, and Cook based on ADP. Well, Cook may or may not hold out. We don't think he will, but that's a little scary. Kyron Williams has got 17 other running backs in the backfield. A-Chain, faster famine, and then Bucky Irving, who cost me this basically the playoffs last year, but he was good before costing the playoffs. So the question is, do I give Irving another shot and or go something different? I think I would roll the dice on. No, not James Cook. I was gonna say A-Chain, but fine. You don't take A-Chain. Fine, I'll go with Bucky Irving then. If I can't take A-Chain, I'll go Bucky. I'll go Irving. I like guys who get the ball. Bucky Irving's gonna get the ball. So I'll take him.
He can take A-Chain. He's just not doing it because he thinks Sylvie would have taken it. He's trying to make this realistic for him.
Well, no, because it's
back in the field.
Well, no, because that's what I'm saying. I think Sylvie would have taken A-Chain, and in that scenario, I think I would have taken Jonathan Taylor, for the reasons you gave, right? Like of all the running backs who were still available, I think Taylor, while they all have risk associated with them, I think he is going to be the most sturdy. And I'm looking for a running back here who's just going to get me my 10 points a game. I'm not looking for the home run here because I've got Lamar. I've got the electric player with Lamar. I'm just looking for a guy who, hey, he's going to go out and he's going to get me a set number of points every week. I'm going to set it and forget it. I don't need a home run ball, but I just need someone who's going to be consistent. And I think of the running backs available to me, I think Jonathan Taylor was the one that could do that. But since he wasn't available, I went with Bucky Irving because I think that's a safer pick than A-Chain. So I think there's more upside with A-Chain, but I just think Irving's safer. Anyway, go ahead, Mitch. You're on the clock as the dinosaurs.
Oh, well, just because he took Lamb in the first, then there's got to be one of the others. Otherwise, it's just flip reverse because none of the running backs went except for Taylor and Irving. So I guess depending on, this is where it's tricky when you pick, 10, 11, 12 or whatever, it's can you wait 5 or 6 picks for that player to make it back to you? So seeing as he went Lamb first, it's going to be any of the running backs, whoever he's going to like. I have no idea. H.N. Williams, Cook, who's after that? Chase? So, yeah, I mean, it's probably not. Yeah, let's just go with the best available running back, Devon Achane. I honestly don't know what he'd do here. Because I think
it's Miles. None of us know what Miles is going to do anytime because that's how he rolls.
It could be the complete opposite, whereas I don't know if Lamb's going to fall that far in the real draft, so it could be a running back there, and then this pick would be best available. That's what I'm saying is
right.
When you pick 10, 11, 12, you just have to make up that decision when it happens.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be honest with you guys. I am not going into this draft with any kind of plan because, like you said, there are so much different things that can happen. Like, sure, there's some, like, I know that Saquon and Bijan and Jamar Chase aren't falling to me. Like, I'm not a fool, right? I know they're not going to fall. But, like, right. There's a world where no one takes the shot on CMC. And then it's like, well, do I take the shot? There's a world where CeeDee Lamb scares people off because he didn't do well last year. And I'm at 11. I'm like, hey, do I try it again this year? Because on the odd years is when Dak's actually good. Like, so, or like I said, there's a world where this happens where, like, hey, I think all the tier 1 running backs and all the tier 1 wide receivers are gone. Do I just take a quarterback here? Like, even though that's something I personally hate doing, but maybe it's a good pick. Like, so like I legit don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just trying to pick, for the sake of this mock draft, something that could make a decent team. And I think, I don't know, you guys tell me, like, if you came out of rounds 1 and 2 with Lamar Jackson and either an Irving or a Taylor or a Kyron, whoever, like, wouldn't you be okay with your first 2 rounds?
Very, very possible. Yeah. It depends. And whenever I go QB early, I've already prepped middle and late rounds for specific players. So that always is dependent on someone not stealing your player. That's why I had to take Gus Edwards around early last year and it didn't even pan out. So it gets real risky when you play that game. So
for sure. But again, I'm not floating any of the risk because it's the mock draft, right? The real thing, sure. Like I said,
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, Alex, is when it comes to the real thing, it's real nice and cute for Vinny, Matt, and Chris to send in the text, oh, you know me, I'm gonna do that gamble. I'm trying to win big. But when you see someone like CeeDee Lamb or a Justin Jefferson, are those three fantasy managers really willing to take a risk on a to pull the shot on a McCaffrey Genty type example, or are they just going to chalk it up, call it Lamb, and go get one of these running backs in the second round? I have a tough time believing that these three, four really good fantasy managers are all going to be like, okay, sign me up for the risk, Lamar, Genty, McCaffrey. So I think you might be right. I think there might be someone that you can't plan on falling because when it comes to the real draft, I'm not sure how, guns blazing, bang bang shooter McGavin, all these fantasy managers like to think they are when it comes to actual drafting.
Well, and that's another reason why I took Lamar, like, because I'm in the 11 spot, right? So like, if I
Yeah.
like, look, you guys know me, I'm a big running back guy. That's what I like. That's what I prefer to draft. And I talked about how, in league history, drafting running back in the first round has won 15 years of the 21. Of the 21 seasons, I've only ever gone first round QB once, and it was awful. I ended up drafting the QB 13, Lamar Jackson. So it did not go well. But in this position, in this particular mock draft, assuming you kind of have the same question marks as on A-Chain Williams and Taylor, which one's going to be the guy, I know that at
Yeah.
most Sylvie can take two of them, so one of them is falling to me anyway, right? So there's not
Yeah.
a huge risk as far as getting one of them. Now, I'm not saying I'd really do that. Maybe there's one of these guys I actually am really high on and want, and I didn't want to share that with you all on the mock draft. Very possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the sake of the mock, I think it was a fair pick. But we got to move this along because we are running out of time. We're going to do at least 2 rounds, so let's try to get through the second round. So, Vinny, you're back on the clock. You're Luis. In round one, you took Justin Jefferson, a wide receiver. What are you pairing that with in round two? You looking for the stack? You looking already to pick up the other JJ on that team right now? JJ
I was,
McCarthy?
I was joking that I was going to do the stack, but if it was Jamar Chase, I think the Burrow stack is kind of juicy at that position. But I will say, I think Luis kind of like is another one. I don't think it's as much of a wild card, but it's always like, okay, how can I take that risk and get as much upside? I think when you're sitting here and you're like, okay, Achan's gone, Irving's gone, Taylor's gone, so maybe you were kind of hoping one of those running backs would kind of fall to you a little bit, and you're like, okay, Kyron did, but Kyron, as good as he is, maybe isn't the most exciting. I think that he's going to go ahead and double stack the wide
Oh,
receivers and
wow.
be like, how is Nico Collins still here? Based on what he did on that 3 or 4 game sample size last year, I would consider like an almond raw, but I think the upside of Nico going in and saying Nico, Justin Jefferson, and that's a set it and forget it in your wide receiver slot. I don't necessarily know if this is reality, but I think that wouldn't be the worst play given what happened in the round one.
Interesting. I mean, that's crazy. I didn't expect that, but fair enough. So now I'm back on the clock. I'm Mitch, and now I'm in a situation where, all right, I've already got a stud running back with Derrick Henry, so I'm looking to build around that. Historically speaking, I like the zero RB strat. So even though
Alex,
there's
if you say his name, you have not been listening to me at all this year, this
Histor-
podcast season.
historically speaking, I like the zero RB
If you
strat.
say his
So,
name.
so I'm not looking to pick up a running back right here. No, stop copy and pasting people in here. I'm talking. So I'm looking at other positions. So it really becomes, do I want to grab my quarterback here? Joe Burrow, the obvious look on the board, but is that a guy that I really want? I was really hoping that, Josh Allen or Lamar would fall to me, but Alex and Sylvie hosed me. So I think I'm going to pick up wide receiver, but it's not going to be the one you guys think. I'm going to grab Puka Nakua. I'm grabbing a guy who gets a lot of balls chucked his way. I'm going to put Puka with Henry, stack some youth with my age on my roster here, and give me a 1-1 situation going into round 3.
I was scrolling to find Aaron Rodgers, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I was going to make the troll move of picking Aaron Rodgers as quarterback, but we ain't got time for that. So,
I got plenty of rounds left to grab Rodgers. Don't you worry.
all right, Mitch, you're on the board. You're Chris. You're the Gummy Bears. You took Genty, the rookie, in round 1. What are you pairing that with in round 2?
Someone probably a little bit. Well, I think Chris took Neighbors, so it's probably Neighbors. But I don't see how you can pass on the value this late of an Amon-Ra or Brian Thomas. At this point, it's just even if they do bad, who cares? You didn't take them ahead of anyone, so just take one of those guys, and you can't get mad at yourself. Like it's not a bad draft move at this point. Whereas like if you took Amon-Ra probably instead of like maybe we're Nico or a couple or CD Lamb or something like that, then maybe it's a little bit more okay. I took him ahead of people, but I mean, if I was Chris in this situation, it'd probably.
Well, keep in mind you're drafting as Chris, so this isn't what Mitch would do if he were Chris. This is what Chris would do, and Mitch is controlling it. Like you know what I mean? Like.
Okay, all right. So then Chris.
What do you think Chris would? I mean, look for the sake of the mock draft, like that's the fun part of it. Like, sure, I'm not saying make a crazy terrible pick, but like, if you're,
Chris would go neighbors.
You think, yeah, that's want to know who you think you would go. Like, I'm not looking to see like, oh, who does Mitch think Ramon Ra is ready to hire the neighbors? It's, hey, is Chris like him? All right, then you're on the clock. Professor Chaos in the first round. You picked up CMC, so you've got some risk there potentially, risk or reward. Are you going with a safer pick in round 2? Or are you going to keep going with the roll in the dice train? Where are you going here, bud?
We're talking about a guy who last year took Isaiah Pacheco in the second round, followed that up with Kenneth Walker in the third, and Anthony Richardson in the fourth. I think he doesn't make that mistake again. He's like, you know what? We're going all in this year. Jaden Daniels in the second round is a high draft pick. Quarterback is not out of Matt's wheelhouse. He wants that mobile guy. I think he's going to go Jaden Daniel in the second.
Fair enough. I'm on the clock now. I'm Team Phoenix. I've got my boy Jacobs as the steady Eddie, reliable pick from the first round, and now I'm looking to pair something with him. I had Brian Thomas on my team last year, but I'll be honest, I was never a fan. Even though he was on my team, I just didn't have faith in him. I always felt worried that he was going to come back down to earth. I don't want to do that again. There's some question marks around James Cook, and honestly, I'm just stoked to be able to pick up a quality quarterback. I'm going Joe Burrow. Vinny loves picking up early quality QB. The days of Kirk Cousins chicken are over because Kirk Cousins no longer the guy, unfortunately. So I know I can't wait on him. So I'm going to take Burrow here.
See, Matt, Alex, and Sylvie all have QBs before me. That's hilarious. And Vinny. All right, keep going.
Vinny took QB round 1 last year.
He did. And I was going to try and say, everyone's like, you think I love Josh Allen and all that. I was like, I had Hurts above Josh Allen last year. And if I want to be really realistic, I had Bijan and Jonathan Taylor ahead of Barkley. The only reason I got Barkley is because Bijan went to Sylvie and Adam took Taylor. So let's be real here. If Bijan was there, I would be going Bijan above Barkley, and I wouldn't have had Barkley the whole season last year.
Mitch's team, if Mitch got to choose, it was Jonathan Taylor and Hurts. And instead, he falls into Barkley and Allen.
I'm trying to be quiet about it and be like, I tried to make a whole statement an hour ago about how, well, you never know, guys, who's going to be where, because you don't know. All these managers aren't going to be surefire random picks. Like, I don't know if, like, someone's going to be more. Yeah, so I'm just trying to keep my mouth quiet a little
All right, well, you got to flap your mouth a little bit because we got 6 minutes left. So real quick, who are you taking as the Flying Penguins? Your break in the first round, you picked up Jahmyr Gibbs. Who are you going in the second?
I mean, Adam, who picks off the top of the list, is going to see someone who's highly ranked above everyone else still available, and he's going to go St. Brown for sure, because St. Brown, I think, is...
So he's going to go double Lions? He's going all in on the Lions this year?
Oh, I didn't even realize he had Gibbs in the first.
And there's also... Look, if you're talking top of the list, there's Kyron Williams is still sitting up there.
No, I meant, like, he might not do just...
Gotcha, 1-1. Sure.
Yeah. So, you're right. Let's just do top of the list. Let's go Kyron. Because Kyron probably should be gone by this pick anyways. So let's just throw him in there.
All right, Vinny, you're the yak of land.
I don't know. It should be gone. I don't know. Maybe the 5th pick right here somewhere. I'm at Cam. Cam. Let's see. Took Jamar Chase in the first round. He would be hurting for a running back here. I think he's going to look and he's going to see James Cook and he's going to see all these great wide receivers. So now he's choosing between James Cook, Chase Brown, Kamara, Breece Hall. We know he loves him some Hall. I'm going to do this because Alex and I talked about it. This is kind of the mindset of Cam to an extent. This is the guy that went wide receiver 2 years ago. Alex and I said, why, if you think this guy would be Travis Kelce 2 years ago, is he not drafted in the first round? Cam breaks the mold, takes Brock Bowers, second round. Why we're sitting here leaving tight ends to pick 30 In DoD, I do not know, so I'm taking Brock Bowers here.
Yeah, so that conversation happened off there, but just to fill people in, we talked about how Brock Bowers is going as the tight end 1 in a lot of fantasy football leagues, and his ADP is 30. Whereas when Travis Kelce was going as tight end 1 for so many years, he was a borderline first round pick. Like there were years he went in the first round, years he went early second. So you're talking about a guy whose ADP was anywhere from 8 to 15 as the tight end 1. Why is Brock all the way down at ADP of 30 as the tight end 1? Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Brock Bowers is going to be as good as Kelce in his prime, but that's a pretty big drop off when you consider like the tier 1 tight ends versus everyone else. So yeah, I don't know that I think Cam's gonna make that pick, but that's the kind of the discussion we had, that like Brock Bowers ADP is 30. I don't think it's realistic that the first tight end doesn't happen until around 3. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that's a realistic possibility. But
All
yeah,
I know is taking the number
you're
one
saying it's
tight
gonna
end is
happen
definitely
before?
snaking. It's definitely snaking Austin. Taking a tight end here would be snaking. Austin probably wants tight end 2.
no, because I'll tell you exactly what Austin's doing. I got Saquon, but I'm also looking for some redemption here. Chase Brown. I never should have gotten rid of him last year.
He's got my team from last year.
Getting rid of Chase Brown last year was the worst decision I made, and I struggled all season. Give me some Chase Brown. Let me get redemption. We're back in this.
For dropping him.
Yeah, that's what I said. Giving up Chase Brown. And then, Mitch, you are now my dad. My dad's got Bijan already. Who you taking?
AJ Brown probably. Who's the? I don't really know, or maybe I don't. Who's the Bama or Auburn guy here? Jalen's still on there, so maybe even Jalen. I'm not sure. Wait, Jalen's ranked that high on our thing, or which ranking is that you're looking at?
That's ADP on CBS. So yeah, that's QB4.
Hey, his ADP is 23. That's pretty dang. Yeah, I don't. Let's just chalk it up and go best available wide receiver. That's what he did last year. He went Justin Jefferson and Derrick Henry, which that being best available at the turn is ridiculous. So this year his best available will be
Amon-Ra,
Bijan
Brian
and
Thomas, AJ
Yeah,
Brown.
Amon-Ra. Oh, I keep forgetting that. Yeah, because I'm assuming they're gone in my head. I apologize. Yeah, so with one of those left, it's one of those. Just Amon-Ra. Yeah, there we go.
All right, so that's our first 2 rounds of mock draft. So guys, take a quick second because we're out of time here, but take a quick second and look at the teams. Who do you think is sitting the best coming out of round 2? Which of these teams are you like, man, I would love to have those 2 guys going into round 3?
Austin.
I'm gonna just go really quick, just because I have in other engagements I need to go. I actually have to go hang out with the number 1 overall pick in Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, Amon-Ra. When you pick number 1, I'm gonna say Nolan for the second year in a row makes out of the first 2 rounds like a bandit.
Real quick before you go, Vinny, got to do the ad read. This episode's been brought to you by Circuit City, your favorite local electronics store. Stop by today to pick up popular media like CDs, DVDs, camcorders, and more. Imagine making memories come to life the digital way. Circuit City. Imagine that. All right, Vinny, you can head. I just had to do the ad read before you left. I didn't want you to miss that.
Appreciate it. Next week's is brought to you by Radio Shack.
Yeah, it may very well be. Don't spoil it.
Oh no. Blockbusters the week after.
all right, Mitch. What about you? So you snapped off Austin pretty fast. So you coming out of this with Saquon, Chase Brown. That's where you're looking to be based on what you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, anyone. Where did dinosaurs win? Lamb and Hn. Like, I'm just trying to see who potentially can get a top, running back in round 2, because that's usually generally the best value. So, yeah, as far as like, I was just looking there, and if Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irvin right at the turn, but then there's not one more running back till Kyron and Chase. So, I mean, honestly speaking, in this mock draft, it'd probably be Adam and Austin, because they have the highest potential to have an actual top, 6 to 8 running back. And even if they finish around 8 or 9, that's still fine. As long as the other running back you picked is serviceable. So you really can't, I'm not saying you can win your league like that, but you really are going to have a tough time. I mean, unless obviously running backs get injured and stuff like that, but like barring any injuries, could you imagine having Gibbs and Kyron or Chase and Barkley in your first 2 picks? That's really hard to pass up. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, other than that, then it becomes favorites. I would pick your team just because, you got one of my boys on there. So,
Bucky
and then,
Irving, that's your boy?
That's my boy, and then apparently Luis has got one of my other boys. So, not including favorites, I would probably say whoever solidifies, because the whole point of picking 1 through 4 is, I understand if you go Chase for sure, not knocking it, and that could be a great pick. But the reason why they're top 3 running backs is because you can't pass on a top 6 running back. Whether you believe the running backs after that, like McCaffrey, Genty, Henry, and those guys are top 6, that's up for you to decide or not. But if you think there is a running back in the top 6, you probably can't pass on that. Now, if you don't think there's a top 6 running back there and you can go get better running backs later, then yeah, you do that type of thing. So I guess it's just kind of like the reason why you want to pick top 3 is for that running back. So if you can maybe have 2 in your first 2 picks,
Yeah, that's what Vinny and I were talking about. When you look at ADP for the top 4 guys, Bijan, Saquon, Jamar, and Jameer, depending on what site you look at, they're all like 1 or 2. All 4 of those guys are like 1 or 2. And then the next person is Derrick Henry, whose ADP is 5. So it's like...
basically it's 80, right? Yeah, exactly.
There's a clear cut, these are the top 4 guys. And then it becomes, who do you take at 5?
So I've been noticing, I was wondering, I just got the chills because I was honestly debating, I think it was last night or the other night, laying down in bed, just thinking about, like, if you look at ADP this year, that seems to happen. Like, if you go to the ADP of CBS, Alex, and type it in real quick, whatever, and then you look at, like, spots like 24 to 31, there's no one ranked, like, 24 to 31. They're all just, like, so go to ADP real quick.
Where are you seeing that?
I'll go to... just type in CBS ADP and it'll come up. Just in the search bar, just type it in. CBS ADP. Fantasy, it'll come in. There, yeah. So, like, go to, like, 30 or whatever. And look at, there's, like, a gap. It goes, like, 23, 24, 31. Where is ADP 25 through 30? And then if you look at 31 to 35, there's, like, if you count them, like, actually numerically, there's like 15 guys ranked inside an ADP of like 8 spots. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, so I would just cautious anyone listening to the podcast that be aware of this, and that's why certain gaps, it's really a tier type of draft, it seems like this year.
100%.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is more than any normal year and I'm just noticing it or it's actually standing out. But it seems like a tier gap draft. So just be careful when you're looking at these ADPs that, man, why did this guy go 22 when his ADP is 32? It's like, well, look, there's no one ranked between 23 and 31.
That's why I think the Lamar and Josh Allen picks here. Like, I mean, look, I get that I'm probably not the guy who's going to pull the string on Q quarterback, but like if I'm doing this draft, like the tier at wide receiver, I think everyone kind of agrees there's the big 3, right? Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson.
Sure.
There's a big step down, I think, between them and Nico Collins, just because Nico Collins isn't a guy that he's not a guy who's been doing it for the last 5 years. He's done it for on and off for 2 years because he's been injured a lot both those years. So like there's a step down between those tier. And then the same with running backs. Bijan, Saquon, Gibbs, CMC if healthy, Derrick Henry, and then Genty and Jacobs. Some people are high on them, some are not. That depends on your personal opinion. But I think after those guys, and I'm not saying they're all in the same tier, but I'm saying after those guys, there is another step down as far as risk goes. Like, because I think there's more risk involved with other players than there are. Like, Genty may not be a gangbuster, but he's not going to be a bust because he's going to get the ball 20 times a game. And anytime someone's getting the ball 20 times a game, they don't have to be great. They'll still put up numbers, right?
Right.
So like Chuba Hubbard last year, he wasn't always great yards per carry wise, but he got the ball. Perfect example was Rashid White. So not last year because he ended up losing his job because he's not that good, but the year before, 2023, if we look at fantasy points, he's what, top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's a top 8 running back. The reason he was a top 8 running back because he got so many touches, 272 carries, 64 receptions. He had over 330 touches on a season. If you're just getting the rock all the time, you're going to be fantasy relevant, even though, look at his average yards per carry, 3.6, 4, 4.5, 4.2, 5, 4.8, 5.4, 4.6, 5. Everyone was better than him running the football. He just got the ball more than everybody else, right?
For sure.
That's why he ended up losing his job to Bucky Irving. But the point being, with some of these guys, it's like, look, Genty may or may not be a great player. As a Raider fan, I hope he is. But just the fact that, like, he's the one that's going to get the ball, so there's some value there, right? Josh Jacobs is the one who's going to get the ball, so there's some value there. I go to Bucky Irving. Well, Rashid White is there taking catches. Devon Achane does have an injury concern. Jonathan Taylor, God, who knows what's happening with that team? We don't know who the quarterback's going to be every week over week. So
I don't think it matters. Richardson and Jones might be equally bad.
yeah, that too. So, and while any of them could be good, any of these guys could, like Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Devon Achane, any of these guys could be above Jacobs, CMC, Genty, and Henry. That's very possible in my opinion, but that's a tougher decision to make. So that's why I made the Lamar Jackson pick there, because that was like, look, the tier 1 quarterback, the tier 1 QB is still on the board, whereas the tier 1 running backs and tier 1 wide receivers are gone, was the way I looked at it.
Gotcha.
So, anywho, that's our mock draft. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We do have to get out of here. Vinny's already taken off. I've already read the ad read, which I was going to save to the end, but I wanted Vinny to hear it because it's just fun. Someone in our text thread, one of the listeners, so thank you, shout out to the listener, made a joke about sponsors and getting us some money. So I don't know if Circuit City's actually going to pay us, but I decided to give them a shout. Any final thoughts, Mitch, before I wrap this up?
No, just it's exciting. This podcast more than anyone, I'd be, it's like right before our draft, but then next week, like I'm sure we're gonna have like all the real thoughts and questions that we're trying to ask, but we're just kind of avoiding. Like I can't ask you to rank guys right now, you know what I mean? And then someone listens and then they're picking ahead.
Yeah,
of
no,
it's a little tough. But I feel like after this week, the content value of picking and criticizing, or just having like the more dive on the fantasy focus type of part of the league will probably skyrocket.
Well, and I will say, at least from my standpoint, it's not that none of the analysis I gave today was not legitimate. Everything I said was legitimate.
For sure, it's just
there may be guys that I am higher on that I don't want to share with the group. So,
And I also don't want to negatively influence anyone and be like, you said you like this person and then they do bad that year. So that's also what. Or
like the Genty thing. It's like, what if everyone was afraid of the rookie and he was going to fall to the second round? Like, I wish I hadn't said anything. Like, he shouldn't fall to the second round, but like maybe that would happen. I think this league is intelligent enough that wouldn't happen. But like, you would hate that, right? Like, if there's a guy who's like round 1 talent who's going to fall to round 2 because no one really knows about him because he's a rookie, and then you hyped him up and now he's going to go, like, oh crap. Anyway.
And then like one last thought, and then also like with Miles, it's like I don't want to be so self-centered to where I think my thoughts are going to influence anyone at the same time. So it's like I don't know where to balance this tightrope real quick, but after next week when we draft, and that all goes away.
Yep. We will find out next week. Thank you all for being here. Say goodbye, Mitch.
See ya.